Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Underrated Movies, y'all. I am your guy. I'm your man, Mr. Alton Henry. And today, I would like to talk to you of another underrated film that came out last year. And when it first came out, I wanted to give it some time to see what the reception was. And it's quite divisive. It was actually one of my favorite films of last year. And this is 28 Years Later, directed by Danny Boyle, starring Ray Fiennes, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Kumar, and what's that kid's name? I don't remember the kid's name. Uh, yeah, I don't remember the kid's name. Alfie Williams. Yeah, that's his name. And the movie centers on the zombie apocalypse. For those who aren't familiar with the 28 Days franchise, this is the third film in the franchise. I know there's a fourth one called The Bone Temple. I didn't see that film. Um, I don't know if I'm gonna see it because I don't like the idea that they're incorporating ideas of Satanism into that movie. But anyway, focus on 28 years later. Why I think it was one of the best films of last year and why it's underrated. Because if for those who don't understand Danny Boyle's storytelling, and it's not every filmmaker's style is for everyone. Okay, Danny Boyle, he's also known for doing some horror, but he's known to genre bend. And when he genre bends, it plays off as a horror film, but then it dives into something very different. He did this with another film he did called Sunshine, um, which it started as one genre, then it switched into another one. So he's a very tonally different filmmaker. He's a very experimental one. But 28 years later takes place literally 28 years, or within 28-year time span, it has the zombie apocalypse has taken. Uh, the story centers on uh, a father and a father-son duo, but mostly particularly on the son as he navigates through the world of a zombie apocalypse that he was born and raised in. And as he's trying to grasp the realities of his world, he is suddenly having to deal with the circumstances of his mom, who was tragically dying of sickness. So he embarks on an adventure to rescue and find a cure for his mom in the zombie apocalypse. Now, here's the thing about this film for those who haven't seen it or have heard about it and about like Danny Boyle. I like this film kind of brought back the big scope of horror and it was kind of experimental, kind of like from the mid 2000s. You don't normally feel that much of those kind of genres anymore. So it was refreshing to kind of see that back, and it kind of did amaze me, uh, seeing that scope of a horror film again. It feels like an action horror because it does dive into that. So this is probably the closest of an action film of Danny Boyle, but he chooses to do horror. And the center of the focus is really on the kid. The trailer sells it. It was around Aaron Taylor Johnson and gives you this Last of Us vibe. It's not. It's on the kid, and he does an amazing job in this film. And the it's literally of him encountering the world from his father and encountering the world also through his mother. And it's like this adventure of him literally learning the realities of two different worlds and perspectives uh, in the zombie apocalypse. That's at least from what I've understood from this film. Um, so there's not really necessarily a main antagonist. This is mm, the story is done as a coming of age story. So the kid is literally learning through things about his life and the things he's dealing with. Um, And it's kind of interesting because the trailer sells you Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to be in the movie for very long, and he's in it for at least the first third after his prologue. He's kind of seen as the main star in the first 20 to 30 minutes, and then you don't see him again until the last part of the film, which is an interesting thing that Danny Boyle chooses to do, and it was actually a clever way what they did to advertise this movie to kind of sell you, it's a zombie thing. So it's a marketing tactic. They sell you something different, and then you're actually seeing something else out of it. Where there's could be some criticism with that because um, this movie is a horror film, but it's not the horror film that you're hoping to find. And I enjoy the world building. They really set up everything here, and it made sense to a degree. I think there are some plot holes as to why is this virus affected um, all the like the world globally, and they mention briefly on it, but they don't fill in the gaps of all of it. Ray Fiennes was amazing in this, and it's kind of a shame with horror not getting recognition because if it's of its genre. Ray Fiennes steals the show as his mad scientist. It does have like Apocalypse Now vibe, but when he comes in and does his as the character, he's great. Like, he's amazing in this. Like to me, his performance. That's actually one of my favorite performances of his, even though he's not in the film for long. Um, it is like an adventure journey film to literally journeying to see and meet this character. Uh, and then I kind of like what they did with the evolutions of the zombies, where you got these different type of zombies. Uh, it's kind of like a beat for beat thing for The Last of Us, and since those who were born after 2002, 2007, they're more inclined to be familiar with The Last of Us. So I'm sure they're gonna reference The Last of Us and compare it to this. Um, cool, and that's in fairness. All 20 days later came out 2002. So I mean, there are some beats off The Last of Us that they did match here, and um, yeah, I think the world building of this felt a little bit more realistic compared to The Last of Us, where everybody well, from what the film, everybody's resorted to a tribe approach, which was interesting to see. Uh, and the scope of this is very big. I mean, there's some pretty good, beautiful shots in this movie. Um, and the cell phone look, it actually worked for me. I actually like that Danny Boyle took some chances of experimenting with filmmaking and used the iPhone. It literally gave a very edgy look to it, and it really made the film feel a little bit more um grittier, raw, disgusting, vile. Uh, yeah, I've enjoyed the movie. There is a tone shift, and that's what I think people won't like again, because it shifts to horror, big budget horror, action, and it becomes a philosophical, artsy movie. And then the tone at the very end shifts into like a chaotic rock and roll action flick that felt like if Power Rangers was made into an R-rated rock and roll music piece. And that's been talked about. That ending does feel out of place and just random. So that's something is to be known about it. Like like really, because even I was taken aback because after this thoughtful, artsy vibe that felt very, very beautiful. And then you get a random tone like this and it switches. Um, it felt like an add-on, and it does lead up to the Bone Temple. Like I said, I have not seen the Bone Temple. I personally don't know if I'm gonna watch the Bone Temple. Um, though, despite the Bone Temple not making its money, I would hope they would still at least finish the series and just say that is it. Because Killian Murphy, who was in the first film, pops up in the second, The Bone Temple, and they're gonna finish it off with this. But I do hope they do finish it. Um, and I think, well, that's what I believe about 28 years later. I think it's a masterpiece of uh, genre bending of horror. It is not for everybody. To me, it was a refresher of horror experimenting, um, and trying to push the limits of that genre. And I'm kind of glad I waited a year to kind of see how this show would respond to people. Because when I was hearing the response that this was one of the most divisive films of last year, I can understand. Um, because it's again, it's like you're watching a horror film and then you switch the tone and it becomes, kind of like I don't know, like I think Annihilation's pretty divisive for people, especially its weird ending. Um, it does dive into art house territory, so that's just right out there. 28 years later, have you seen it? Comment below. Let me know if you have, and let me know what is your favorite underrated movie, y'all.